to be here with you where sports meets that thing called life, and I cannot thank you enough for being a part of this broadcast, A Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We apologize for the delay, as I will just say it plain and simple. Apple, get your act together. The annoying moment of the week is going to be easy for tomorrow because my Apple iPhone was a piece of garbaggiosa today. So we'll talk about that. And we had to get our calls. We streamed some of our calls through. And unfortunately, Apple sometimes, I feel like they always want more money. They're always seeking more money. They're always seeking a way to try and take more money. And when they can't get your money, they try to force you to give them your money, which is very wrong. So, with that being said, I won't spend any more time on it. We'll get into the annoying moment of the week about it tomorrow. But Apple, get it together, because you just took away precious moments of the broadcast this morning. And that's on you, boo-boo. That's on you. So, with that being said, we're happy to be here inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Thank you so much for being a part of the show where sports truly meets that thing called life. I am ecstatic about the trio of guests that we have on the broadcast today. And first, I want to let you know, Cafe Kubal, you can head out to them on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, as well as 401 South Salina Street, where I was hanging out yesterday. And definitely make sure that you see them in Syracuse at those locations. You can also find Cafe Kubal by going to the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners, and you can check them out there in North Syracuse. And Cafe Kubal is also available to you on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. So however you connect with Cafe Kubal, make sure you do that today. If you're like Papa Joe and Mary and you want to order some Cafe Kubal for you and you're out of town, you can go to cafekubal.com. That's cafe, Kubal.com, and you can order from them and have it shipped to your house. So, with that being said, like I said, an awesome trio of guests today inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. And we're going to start off the show with Papa Joe. He's popping it here every single Thursday at his post, Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We're going to talk about the oustings, the mid-season oustings of Joe Maddon and Joe Girardi. We'll also talk about if there's anybody else that PJ thinks might be on the hot seat, and we will get into the baseball diamond as well and take a look around Major League Baseball as we always do with Papa Joe. Then in the second hour of the broadcast, around 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time, we'll be joined by Michael Paulus. Michael Paulus joining the show for the first time ever. He was behind me in school at Christian Brothers Academy, and by behind me, I mean just younger, a couple grades behind me. And Michael Paulus will be joining the show as he is now the Syracuse University Senior Associate Athletics Director, Executive Director of the Cuse Athletics Fund. So we'll talk to Michael about the background and get a behind-the-scenes look at Syracuse University through the words of Michael Paulus. And then we'll round out today's show. Around 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time, we'll be joined by Dave Pasiak, longtime basketball coach and analyst who has been joining us all throughout the NBA playoffs as he does each season. And after Game 3 with the Boston Celtics taking that Delhi dub, 116-100, we will speak with Dave Pasiak on what he thinks about the series as we move forward from here, with a quick game turnaround on Friday for Game 4 that is also in Boston at TD Garden with those Celtics ahead of the Golden State Warriors. So plenty of good stuff coming up here where sports meets that thing called life. So let's hop right into it as we have the man of the first hour of the broadcast, Mr. Papa Joe. PJ, how we doing?
Morning, Daniel. Sorry I had some problems with you on the phone there, but as I say, we do Samsung. We don't do Apple.
Yeah, well, I mean, I got an Apple phone because I needed to get a lot of work done, and there's a lot of things that I have to do, so I just needed it to cooperate. And I was able to get it to work, you know, for certain times when it has its moments, but ultimately, at the end of it all, this thing has been somewhat of a joke, and it's gets you to a point where you get frustrated, but you know what? It's done. It's over. God willing, it'll keep working. The most important thing is that we got you on the air, and that's what's important. So let's hop right into baseball, and let's start with Joe Girardi being relieved of his duties, as well as Joe Maddon. Joe Girardi being relieved for the Philadelphia Phillies, and Joe Maddon let go from the Los Angeles Angels. So your thoughts on the mid-season moves to get rid of Joe Maddon and Joe Girardi?
Well, it was a knee-jerk reaction to losing streak. It wasn't necessary. You're talking about two guys that are equally famous in baseball, and they're both past National League and American League managers of the year. Why do you fire a manager of the year if you're having fun? These guys don't play the game. All they do is coach it and manage it. Joe Girardi was a hell of a player when he was playing. He played for the Yankees. And Joe Maddon wasn't much of a player, but he's been a coach and manager for something like 40 years. I mean, Joe Maddon won 2 Manager of the Years with Tampa, which is hard to do because they don't have a big fund down there. And then he won another one with the Chicago Cubs. Three-time Manager of the Year. Now, the guy knows his stuff. His guys weren't hitting. His guys maybe had a few lapses in the field. Maybe he wasn't pulling the right guys out of the bullpen. A lot of things happen when you're in the slump like that, and it doesn't help when the best player in baseball is on an 0 for 23 schneid, as Boomer Berman would say. Mike Trout couldn't hit nothing. Otani couldn't hit anything. Rendon couldn't hit anything. 3 of the best players in baseball couldn't hit, and of course Joe's got to take the rap. I don't agree with it. I'm talking about Maddon specifically. It was just last week when I was talking about the Angels, and they're in second place. They're a couple of games behind. I felt really, really good about it.
Yeah.
They were playing competitive. They got some decent pitching this year. Again, it's the 3 players that I talked about carrying the team. And all of a sudden, you're on a 14-game losing streak. Now, in cases like that, I think you maybe try to nip it in the bud. You get your guys together, sort of BS in the locker room with some beers, and say, listen, fellas, we've lost 10 in a row. I don't know what to say or do, but I'm putting you out there to make plays, and I'm putting you out there to hit. I'm putting you out there to pitch. I can't do that for you. You got to do it. So if they don't do it, then who's going to take it? Who's going to take the brunt? It's going to be the manager. I don't particularly care for the way the Angels handle this. Joe Maddon is a Hall of Fame manager and will get a job sooner than later. He'll probably be on TV for a while, and he'll find a big time job for there. Now Joe Girardi is a different story. Now Joe Girardi, he has an acerbic attitude. He's kind of rough around the edges guy, and you don't mess with Joe Girardi. I mean, it's either his way or the highway. He was a National League Manager of the Year when he was Miami. He got them till pennant. His 1 year was there. The next year they fired him. Joe's tough to deal with. I gotta agree with that. But he won a World Series with the Yankees. He was with the Yankees from I think 08 to 17. I mean, come on, these guys are the top of the heap. And I tell you what's happening with baseball now, and it pisses me off, is that all these teams now are going to what we call analytical type of situation, where everything has got to be put through a computer. It's going to spit out here and spit out here and spit out here. And they're going to say, well, you should have done this here. You should do this here. You should have got this guy here. That's BS. That's not the way you coach. That's the way you manage a baseball. Forget the analytics. I don't care about it. I care about good baseball being played by good teams. If the managers make the wrong moves, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
They'll figure it out. So, I'm a little pissed about that. There's not too many old managers left. Tony La Russa's one for the White Sox, and he's barely hanging on by a thread. You got Dusty Baker over there with Houston. And these guys are in their 70s, okay? They don't need a talk analytics. They know baseball. They know what to do in given situations. They're winners. They're managers of the year. They're the World Series managers. These guys are at top, including Girardi and Maddon. So I think it was a knee-jerk reaction on both teams' part, and I didn't agree with it. I don't know who's taking over Philly because I don't follow Philly that much. But I do know who's taking over to Los Angeles, and that's Phil Nevin. Now, Phil Nevin was a baseball player. He was a third baseman. He was all over the place. Played for several different teams. Now, Phil knows the game. And I'm not sure he's going to skid ball with any of these analytics either, because I think he's right around 50. He'll do a good job. He'll do a good job because he played the game. He knows the pressures that these players are under, and especially when you've got arguably the best player that's ever played the game. It was 0 for 23. Are you kidding me? I mean, the Mendoza line is 200. Even Mendoza would never go 0 for 20, 50. But he was played the Red Sox the other night. He was 2 for 2 with a home run, so he's off the schneid a little bit. But unfortunately, it didn't help Joe Maddon. Joe Girardi, don't know who's going to follow him, but Phil Neville is going to do a good job with Los Angeles.
Yeah, and I mean,
that's my rant for this morning, Daniel.
No, and it's okay. And listen, it's warranted because it is ridiculous that we have to deal with things like this, and it's ridiculous that we, I've never been a fan of the mid-season moves unless it was something drastic. Like if it was something genuinely like somebody was brought up on a sexual abuse charge, somebody was, if they have a drinking problem or a drug problem or something like that. If it's something that away from the game would be just an issue no matter what, then I would say, okay, you know what? Take them out, right? You got to take them out of that job. You got to get them what they need to get the help that they need to get. And, I think that ultimately, that there's those special circumstances. But saying, like you said, hey, we're in a slump, hey, it's not working out right now in this moment. I mean, you think about it, and we live in a society where everything has to happen right now. We need it to happen right now. When did it happen? Well, it needed to happen yesterday, but we have a microwave society. We have a society, as Mike Sofka always puts it on the show, that they can't wait 1 minute for something to happen. And, sometimes you make that move and it ends up working out. Sometimes you make that move and it doesn't end up working out. But to disrupt your team that already is seemingly disrupted in the middle of the season just seems wrong. And I've never been a proponent of taking somebody out in the middle of this all because it just, like you said, they're managing the game. They're not out there playing the game. They're doing the best that they can in the moment. Some managers are better than others, but to take somebody out in the middle of it all, how many times has that really struck gold is kind of the question.
Oh, true. Let me give you a good example of what's happening with Los Angeles. As you know, I got Major League Baseball, which I love, of course, and I tell you, all our readers, our listeners, every week that I had MLB baseball. I caught the Phillies and the Angels the other night, and I just wanted to see how they were playing. The Angels specifically. The Angels were they led 6-2 in the eighth inning. Now 6-2 in the eighth inning is a pretty good lead. Los Angeles doesn't have the best bullpen, but they got a decent bullpen, good enough to hold a 4-1 lead. So what do I say? They're at Philadelphia, the bottom of the eighth inning. A guy hits a grand slam. Now it's 6-6. Now they're struggling. Top of the ninth inning, the Angels get a run. Now it's 7-6. Bottom of the inning, Philly comes up. It's a 3-run homer, walk-off homer, and I see Mike Trout sitting on the bench, shaking his head. What can I do? I can't do it all. I can't do it all. And if you could see the strain on his face, you got to look at when you're in a Major League Baseball team, you got to be able to protect a 6-2 lead. Joe Maddon, he made his moves. He made the moves he thought he could win with. When he got stuck with a grand slam in the bottom of the eighth inning, you could see the wind right out of their sails. And I'm telling myself right there, I'm telling Mary, there's no way the Angels win this game. They can't win it. They're just too snake bit. So, right there is an issue that needs to be addressed, of course. What did Joe Maddon do in those situations? Joe Maddon does things. He's a quirky kind of manager. He doesn't do things by the book. He does things by feel. He felt he had the right reliever in there at the bottom of the eighth inning. He felt they had the right reliever at the bottom of the ninth inning or the 10th inning. I can't remember which one it was, but in any event, the guys were shell-shocked that they lost that game. And, of course, that hasn't gotten any better because they're on a 14-game losing streak. I don't remember in recent history, and I go back a long way with baseball, I don't remember a 14-game losing streak.
Well, you could just look to my Diamondbacks probably and find it. But
no, but they didn't lose 14 games in a row.
But it begs the question, speaking here with Papa Joe inside of the Cafe Kubal studios on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, the question that I'm looking at this morning with Joe Girardi and Joe Maddon recently being relieved of their duties of the Phillies manager and the Angels manager respectively, the question that I look at today is how much of the onus do you put on the managers? In your opinion, how much of it is on them from game to game? When a team is losing or winning, how much of that do you put on the scheming and the in-game planning? How much responsibility do you put on a manager of the game in baseball?
Well, certainly it's critical. But, like I say, these guys are professionals. They've been around. They know what's happening. They know the opposing team. They know every hitter on the other team. They know every pitcher on the other team. Not only them, but the entire league. So they know who they're facing at what time. The manager sets up the lineup where he thinks he can hit. If he's got a nasty left-hander thrown from the mound from the other side, he loads up his right-hand lineup. If he's got it the other way around, if he's got a nasty right-hander, he uses a little bit more left-handed bat. You can only put players in position to win. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. I mean, the players have got to play the game to the best of their ability. And you're gonna be shell shocked every once in a while, just like the Angels were the other day. And I couldn't believe. First of all, I couldn't believe they lost the game. And then just looking at their faces, it was scary.
But
the importance of the manager, I think, is overblown a lot. I mean, there are certain situations that Joe Girardi goes strictly by a book. Joe Maddon does not do that. Joe Maddon, he manages by feel. He feels like if he throws this pitcher, he can get the other side out a little bit quicker than if he used another pitcher. So he's in situations where he likes to wing it every once in a while. And you lose sometimes when you wing it. They say he's a little quirky. When we used to watch him at Tampa Bay, my son and I used to drive over and watch him all the time over there, and he does some things different. So, but they make their lineup. They know the team that they're playing against. They know their strengths and weaknesses, and they know what pitchers they got to pitch to get the other side out. I mean, they can only put managers and players. Managers can only put the players in position to win. That's all.
That coming here from Papa Joe this morning, a manager can only put the players in position to win, but they have to obviously carry it out. So when you see a firing of a manager, does some of that responsibility go back to the team struggles then? I mean, when Joe Maddon gets fired, when Joe Girardi gets fired, do we look at that and say, okay, maybe they made some bad decisions in planning out some things. Maybe they put some people in the wrong places, but these players didn't come through. So how much of it is on the players of the Angels and Phillies organizations that they don't have their manager anymore?
Well, when the losing streak started, it's matter-of-factly, 2, 3, 4 game losing streak is nothing. We'll bounce right back. We'll start hitting and everything. Well, it didn't stop. It started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the manager has got to put the players in a position to win. I can't say that enough, Daniel. I can talk about it all day long, but the players take it to heart. Joe Maddon is a nice guy. I'm telling you, he's a nice man. Now, the Angels are sitting there after 8-9, 10 losing streak. Now they're starting to think, well, hell, if that's not Joe's problem, it's our problem. All of a sudden, it's a 14-game losing streak. And the players know that they're responsible for that losing streak. Not Joe Maddon. Joe Maddon did a job he thought, which was the best for the Angels. And the players didn't do the job, that's all. And no one feels worse than the players especially if they like a manager like Joe Maddon. You know, I'd say Joe is different now, okay, but also there's something else. The Angels changed management teams last year, and the new GM that came in was not part of the Joe Maddon hiring. And there's some talk, and I read some articles that he didn't particularly care for the way Joe Maddon managed. Well, that kind of stuff can get around. All of a sudden, it gets in the clubhouse, and then Joe overhears something, and then he's on a short leash. So he was on a long leash this time, a 14-game losing streak. So the GM, not knowing Joe that well, and he wasn't part of the decision-making process with Joe came, he fired him. So, you know, let him work with Phil Nevin and see if he can go. There's too many dynamics in the baseball team, Daniel, to go over on the time that we have there. It's just too many. But ultimately, the manager's got to suffer.
The manager's got to what, would you say?
Ultimately, the manager's got to suffer.
You know, so you got to suffer, you said. So that coming from Papa Joe this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cubal studios. Before we take a quick step aside, I do have a question posed to you. Apparently, Greg is bitter about the fact that he couldn't get Bethune-Cookman, so he's going to try and stump you. His question to you is, who is the only Major League Baseball manager to be drafted number 1 overall as a Major League Baseball player?
Oh, my goodness gracious. Say that again.
Who is the only Major League Baseball manager to be drafted number 1 overall as a Major League Baseball player?
Well, I don't know the answer to that. You stumped me, bro. You stumped me bad.
Well, we'll take a look at it. We'll talk about it after this fast break here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cubal studios here. We appreciate you being here, and we'll be back right after this fast break. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skaneateles, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skaneateles Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, hanging out with you where sports meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here with us, and thank you so much for being a part of the show here where sports meets that thing called life. So very much appreciate you being here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And with that being said, we have PJ here with us as we continue the conversation, and it seems like maybe Greg has stumped Papa Joe this morning. And so Greg asked the question. He said the hint is that it's relevant. That is the hint that he's given you. So the hint is that it's relevant. Must be relevant to our conversation. I feel like I may know, but I haven't been asked this question. So PJ, let's talk about racing for a second. We'll take a step aside from baseball. You keep thinking about it, and we'll come back to it. So what are your thoughts on the racing side of things? Bring us into what you want to talk about today.
Well, we got this weekend, is Saturday, is the Belmont Stakes, which is the third part of the Triple Crown, the thoroughbred horse racing. It'll be an immense day. There'll be 100,000 people at Belmont, and they'll wager probably well over $100 million on the race and the race card and everything. So it's exciting to watch. It's exciting to see the horses that come in from all over the world. I'm just going to go. This is basically Friday and Saturday. Just going to give you a synopsis, and then tell you where you can go to do the betting if you want to. It's going to be on television Friday and all day Saturday. On Friday, the third race is going to be the Bed of Roses. Now, when horse races put their races out, either a grade 1, a grade 2, or a grade 3. Grade 3 is less than obvious than their grade 1. So if you're grew into a grade 1, you're at the top of the line for your breed. The third race on Friday is the Bed of Roses, which is a grade 2 stake. To fill in there is 4-year-old and upward. 7 furlongs on a day. Nice race for that. I go to the 8th race, the Belmont Gold Cup Stakes. Again, it's a grade 2 stake for 4-year-olds and upward, 2 miles on the turf. Tough race. Now, when I say 2 miles on the turf, it's grass and not dirt. Now, most of the European nations and racetracks over there, they race on lawn. They race on grass. So when there's big races over here, they like to come over and try to steal some money. In this particular case, there'll be some international horses that want to vie for this. It's a huge race, $400,000 purse. So 2 miles on the turf, you fly from England or wherever, France, or wherever you bring your horse in, a couple of weeks before the race, get them settled, and keep it going the race. Ninth race is the True North Stakes Grade 2, 4-year-olds and upward, 6.5 furlongs on a dirt. This is a sprint. This will be fun to watch also. The 10th race on Friday is the New York Stakes Grade 1, $750,000, mile and a quarter on the inner turf. When I say inner turf, Belmont has 2 turf tracks. Obviously, they have an inner turf and an outer turf. And the configuration's the same, except the corners come up real quick on the inner turf. So it's a different kind of strategy there. So the 11th race is the Intercontinental Stakes Grade 3, the fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upward, $200,000 stakes. It's going to be fun to watch. Now, Belmont Day, let me pull up my Belmont calendar here. Belmont Day starts, the third race is the $500,000 Alcorn Stakes Grade 1. The fillies, 3-year-olds only. They run a mile on the dirt. They'll see some really, really fast fillies there. The fourth race is the Longines Just a Game Stakes Grade 1, $500,000 purse. And it is for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upwards. This one will be a mile on the turf. The fifth race is the Brooklyn Stakes Grade 2, $400,000 purse for 4-year-olds and upwards, mile and a half on a dirt. Tough race. Sixth race is the Woody Stevens race, Grade 1, $400,000 purse for 3-year-olds only, 7 furlongs on a dirt. This would be a sprint. This would be a fast race. The seventh race is the Ogden Phipps Grade 1 for fillies and mares, 4-year-olds and upwards, mile and a 16 on the dirt. The eighth race is the Jaipur Stakes, $400,000 Grade 1 purse for 3-year-olds and upward, 6 furlongs on the dirt. The ninth race is the Hill and Dale Metropolitan Handicap Grade 1, $1 million purse for handicap for 3-year-olds and upward. This will be a real fast race. And 10th race is the Resort Casino Manhattan Stakes, $750,000 purse, mile and a quarter on the inner turf for 4-year-olds and upward. And finally, the 11th race is the Belmont Stakes for 3-year-olds only, a mile and a half on the dirt, and they're racing for $1.5 million. So for all you horse racing fans, watch it on television on Friday, all day on Saturday. If you live close to no TV, you like a horse, go down and play it. But it's going to be a lot of fun, going to be a lot of activity. You know, the only time you ever see any crowds is when these big races come on. So it tells me that there's still some interest out there for horse racing, but not on an everyday level because they just don't come to the tracks. They bet off track all the time. It's always simulcast. So in this particular case, there'll be 700, at least several hundred sites where people will be able to wager this race. So that's why I said that probably they'll wager over $100 million just on the race day. So it's a lot of fun. If you're a horse racing fan, it's what we live for. Be the end of the Triple Crown Series.
So PJ, thank you for that. Thank you for that look into that. I know the answer. Now,
You do?
well, I took the hint, thought I knew, looked it up, so that I have it here. So I'm not going to say I came up with it out of my brain. I looked it up. So I want to give you a chance to guess it. The hint from Greg is that it's relevant to the conversation that we've been talking about with Joe Maddon and Joe Girardi. So you may or may not have said the name of the person that it is. I'll give you an opportunity to give me your thoughts, and then I am going to announce it. You may or may not have said the name in our conversation.
Yeah, I probably have already said something, haven't I?
You did.
But I was mumbling.
When we were talking about Joe Girardi and Joe Maddon, you mentioned this person, and you talked about them for a while.
Yeah.
Let me give you the Jeopardy. Bum, dum, bum, dum.
Nationally or locally?
He was drafted. Well, I don't know if I can give that hint, but I would say it is.
Who was he drafted by?
Okay. He was drafted by. I guess. I mean, I know this is his question, but he was drafted by the Houston Astros in 1992, ahead of Derek Jeter.
Oh, geez.
And you said it.
I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
Said a lot of things. I can't remember, Daniel.
All right. Well, do you give or you want to try? You said the name in when we were talking about Joe Girardi and Joe Maddon. You said the name. You said this person in connection to somebody that we were talking about. It was only one of the couple names that you said. 1992.
I can't pull it off.
All right. Phil Nevin.
Huh?
Phil Nevin.
Phil Nevin. Wow.
So
He's a good player.
So here's the history. Phil Nevin becomes the first number 1 overall draft pick to manage in the majors, drafted ahead of Derek Jeter back in 1992. Phil Nevin was drafted by the Los Angeles Dodgers in the 3rd round of the 1989 MLB June amateur draft from El Dorado High School, and was drafted by the Houston Astros in the 1st round, 1st overall of the 1992 MLB June amateur draft from California State. So he was drafted twice, but in 1992 he was drafted 1st overall, and that makes him the only number 1 overall MLB draft pick to ever manage in the majors. And that history of all the years of baseball is happening here in 2022. Phil Nevin.
No, that's a great question. That's a great question, Greg. Thanks. And I just blew it. I couldn't think. I knew that Nevin was a good ball player for years. That's a good trivia question.
It is a very good trivia question. See, the thing that I realize is I think Greg was very mad at himself and was festering for the last 2 weeks. So he had to try and find you and get you so that he could even the score. I get that vibe from Greg that he needed to, the only way to make himself not necessarily feel better, but he needed to know that he could get you back. So do you have a trivia question to throw back at Greg?
No, that's a lot of fun. Oh, I'll probably think of something.
All right.
I know he's well versed, and it'd be nice to sit down and talk to him one day, but I'll come up with something. I'm pretty well versed on a lot of things, but I got to get back into baseball again here, Daniel.
All right, jump back in. So we're jumping back into baseball here. We started with Joe Maddon and Joe Girardi being let go during the season here, and how much of the onus we put on the manager when it comes to baseball. We also went into Greg's trivia question, and we thank Greg for that, and thank you for always listening and watching, especially when it comes to PJ, but in general with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And, of course, we're here inside of the Cafe Cubal studios. We moved to horse racing, and now we'll jump back into baseball as we have a few more minutes with Papa Joe. So, PJ, take it away. I know you like to give your rankings and your thoughts during the season here, and you give our updates as we go throughout the season. I do want to let people know right before you do that, though, that as we take a look at this, we see the fact that in Major League Baseball right now, there's also some golf talk to talk about too, but in Major League Baseball right now, the current standings are as follows at the time of our conversation. The Yankees continue to stay in first place here. They are the only team in America with 40 victories. They are 40-16 with a 71.4% winning percentage. They're followed by the Rays and the Blue Jays, who are both 7 games back. That's in the American League East. In the American League Central, we have the Minnesota Twins up by 4 games. Shout out to Miss Mary and Minnesota. And so, I'm sorry, Wisconsin is where they are. Milwaukee, sorry, I meant to say that. So, Minnesota, we'll get to the Brewers in a second. Minnesota 33-25. Please, I hope your bros don't kill me on that one. The AL West, Houston Astros 36-21 at the time we're talking. In the National League East, the Mets are above the Braves by 7 games, 38-21, chasing the Yankees' win total by only 2 wins they need to get in order to get to 40. The Milwaukee Brewers, as I was saying and misspoke here, they are leading the NL Central for Miss Mary and your bros up there. They're only a half a game ahead of the Cardinals, 33-25. Cardinals 32-25. And in the West, the Diamondbacks back to a losing record. The Dodgers in the NL West are in first place by only a game and a half over the Padres, with the San Francisco Giants not chomping at their heels there, 5.5 games back. So with that being said, take it away, PJ.
Well, there's a few things I'd like to mention. Go back to the American League. Of course, I got to harp on the Angels. Now, when we had this conversation last week, and actually 2 weekends ago, LA was only a couple games behind the Astros. They were playing them tough. Now they're 9.5 games back because they've lost a million games in a row. They frankly, in the last 2 weeks, they've blown their season. First of all, Houston's not going to back up. So LA's not going to go forward because they don't have enough pitching. They're getting better pitching, but you can't have Mike Trout, Ohtani, and Anthony Rendon carry the team for the rest of the year. It's impossible to do. So for all intents and purposes, the Angels have blown their season wide open. They're 9.5 behind the Astros. The Astros are not going to back up. Also, the Mets are 38-21, as you mentioned, with Atlanta only 7 out. If you remember last week, they were 11 out. And I thought, as I said then, this race is over with. New York's not going to back up. Well, they're backing up a little bit. Atlanta's a very good team. They're well managed. They got good hitters. Even lost Freddie Freeman. They're still hitting well. So I look for this race to be a little bit closer. Next week may be a different situation. The Brewers are only half a game up over St. Louis. I got some problems with the Brewers because they're not hitting. And they're trying to rely on Josh Hader, again, the most fearsome reliever in baseball. I do have to admit that Josh Hader is now human. He blew a save the other night, gave up a couple yards against Philadelphia. He still got a .096 ERA, 18 saves in 19 games with 30 Ks. So if you get a chance to watch the Brewers and it's a close game, you'll see Hader come in the game. Now, I want to see Hader bounce back. If the Brewers are playing today or tonight or tomorrow and they got a 1-0 lead in the bottom of the ninth inning, you'll see him. I want to see how he responds after getting tattooed by a couple of weak hitters in Philadelphia. I mean, Philly does nothing this year. I mean, Girardi couldn't manufacture the players, so he did the best he could. The Yankees continue to lead everything. They're actually leading in a lot of categories. They got the best hitter in the American League, Aaron Judge, at 311, 22 homers, 45 RBIs. You got Garrett Cole. You got Nestor Cortez. These guys are carrying the pitching. They're a real load. They are real low. Mike Stanton is now back playing. Giancarlo, I guess that's what he wants to be called. I call him Mike Stanton. He's back now playing. So the Yankees just keep hounding the ball. And, the other team I mentioned on the list is the Dodgers are 36-20. They got the pitching to do it, and they got the hitting to do it. I don't look for the Dodgers to back up early. The Dodgers manager is a curious guy. If anyone doesn't know anything about Dave Roberts. Dave Roberts played the game long time. He's an unusual guy. I think he's African-American and Japanese. Something like that. I don't know. Something like that. But he's a different-looking guy. He's a hell of a manager. He's a good player, too. So, he knows what he's doing, just like Girardi and Maddon do. But they put enough people in places in L.A. for Roberts to make a few mistakes and get himself pulled out. You got a great hitting lineup. You got 3 nasty pitchers, a good reliever. He's not going to make the mistakes that Maddon and Girardi did. I think Joe Maddon started to reach a little bit, and when you reach, you're playing games. You're not going by your gut. So I look for the Dodgers and the Yankees to continue on their. Perhaps maybe they're going to meet in the World Series. We'll see what happens. but there are some weak divisions here. The American League West with Minnesota is really a weak division. If Milwaukee doesn't play any better than they're playing, Milwaukee is not going to last. They may not even win their division. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and we'll take a look at, baseball as it continues on here. PJ, while I have you for a few minutes, I do want to jump into this really quick, and I appreciate, your baseball prowess and giving us your thoughts on that. I know you're also a fan of the golf world, and we can get into this more in the coming days and whatnot, but the PGA Tour has suspended every player who's taking part in the first LIV, which is not an acronym, it stands for the Roman numeral 54, but in the first LIV golf tournament, the PGA Tour has announced the suspensions here, and it says, and this is from PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan, wrote this in a memo, quote, these players have made their choice for their own financial-based reasons, but they can't demand the same PGA Tour membership benefits, considerations, opportunities, and platform as you. That expectation disrespects you, our fans, and our partners. You have made a different choice, which is to abide by the tournament regulations you agreed to when you accomplished the dream of earning a PGA Tour card, and more importantly, to compete as part of the preeminent organization in the world of professional golf, end quote. So this is where we're at right now. Those that have been suspended, some of them informed the PGA Tour that they resigned their membership beforehand, that being Brandon Grace, Sergio Garcia, Dustin Johnson, Martin Kamer, as well as McDowell had done it, and a few other players had done it. Some had not. Ian Poulter, Phil Mickelson had not informed anybody that they were doing this. So there is a long list of PGA Tour golfers that have now been suspended. 17 of them have been suspended as they have decided to be in the inaugural LIV golf tournament. What are your thoughts on the PGA Tour suspending a lot of these notable golfers and maybe the future of golf?
Well, the PGA Tour tries to be autonomous. They're big bullies. They're like the NCAA bowl committee. They seem to think every decision they make is the right decision. Professional golfers are independent contractors. They play where they want to play. They pay their caddies. They travel their own money. No one takes care of them. These guys put the bill themselves. If they want to go play somewhere else, let them play somewhere else. The PGA Tour cannot stop them from doing that. Sure, they can say, if you want to come back to the PGA, you got to reapply, then you got to go through all this intake and stuff. That's BS. That's nothing. These men are, first of all, they're all worldwide players. Most of these guys. They've played all over the world in different conditions, in different places. And that's who they are. They're independent businessmen. If they want to go play on this tour for, $250 million, they'll play. If last place is going to pay $1 million, well, it's better than last place on a PGA Tour instead of $10,000 to get $1 million. So whoever's playing, I want to watch good golf. I don't care where it is, and I don't like what the PGA is trying to do. It's not necessary. I mean, you can smooth these guys a little bit, but just let them play where they want to play. If you're going to be hurt and you're afraid of a little competition, then you need to balls up, buddy.
Well, I mean, obviously the PGA Tour has had a chokehold on the market for a long time. Is this kind of going off of what you said is what I thought. Is this a move of kind of saying, if you're, you might be independent. Yeah, I mean, basically, I think what it's saying is, hey, you got a PGA card, you got membership. You should take that and honor that and appreciate that we consider you, one of the best golfers and we want you to be a part of this. But if I'm a golfer and a tournament comes up to me outside of the PGA and says, hey, would you like to play? I'm thinking I'm a golfer. I'm my own business. Why can't I go out there and showcase myself? What do you think this move by the PGA is going to do to them ultimately by them going out and saying, if you're not with us for everything, then you're not with us for anything?
Well, they're trying to be a monopoly. Now, there's one sensitive area right now when you're talking about the PGA Tour, and that is the major championships that we got. The PGA, the U.S. Open, the British Open. There's 4 of them. And specifically, the fans want to see the best players play in those tournaments. Yeah. I think the PGA is relenting a little bit. They are allowing these players to play in the major championships. If they really wanted to be a badass, they could say, no, if you're not playing on our tour, you can't play in our championships. And then, of course, the fans are going to go crazy. I would go crazy. I want to see Phil Mickelson play somewhere. I want to see him play for the PGA. If he wants to play other tours for the year this time, that's fine. But I want to see the best player play in the best tournament, and the PGA should not do that. They're too much of a monopoly as it is. So if the players, which are independent contractors, like I said, if they want to play for major championships on this tour, they should be able to do that.
Coming from Papa Joe, I just put the poll out moments ago, just maybe a minute or two ago, and we already have a bunch of votes that have come in. I said, do you agree or disagree with the PGA suspending golfers who have decided to compete in the LIV golf tournament? 64.3% of you agree with the PGA suspending them. 35.7% disagree. We'll continue that voting throughout this week and let you know how it all turns out. PJ, as always, I appreciate you. I thank you for your patience. And just know that the Apple company may be big, but we took a bite out of the apple today, and we made sure we got you on the air today.
Hey, Bob, thanks a lot.
We'll talk with you soon. Coming from Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. We appreciate you being here, hanging out where sports meets that thing called life. We will take a step aside on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. When we come back, we'll have the opportunity to be joined for the first time ever by Michael Paulus, who will be joining us, the Syracuse University Senior Associate Athletics Director, Executive Director of Cuse Athletics Fund. Will be joining us here live on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Great this morning to have a trio of topics with Papa Joe. As we got into baseball, we got in within baseball to some trivia from Greg. Thank you. Shout out to Phil Nevin, the only number 1 overall pick to be a manager in Major League Baseball now that he's taking over for Joe Maddon with the Angels. And we also got to obviously speak about the ousting of Joe Maddon and Joe Girardi as part of that. And we got into PJ's take on baseball, and I'll let you know the standings currently in Major League Baseball and that the Yankees still have the most wins in Major League Baseball. And ironically, the Mets are right behind them with 38, the Yankees with 40, and both in obviously separate leagues, both in the East. So with that being said, and Greg said, enjoy your week, PJ, so I'll make sure I let him know. In hour number 2, we'll be jumping in here in just a moment, like I said, to our conversation with Michael Paulus. But thank you to PJ for talking Major League Baseball, horse racing, and golf, as the PGA has decided to suspend every golfer who's decided to compete in the LIV golf tournament. And right now, the poll continues to come in. 57.9% of you agree with the PGA that they should suspend these golfers, and 42.1% disagree. So, with the move of the PGA suspending these golfers that are competing in the LIV tournament, those golfers, that list of golfers, substantial folks here, as we see the names like Sergio Garcia, Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson and company. Not the names that you want to see on a board of people suspended by the PGA. So, we'll get into more of that conversation as we go forward here, and we'll break it down in the coming days, and I'm excited to do that. And, of course, we will come back here after this fast break in this edition of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora with Michael Paulus of Syracuse University joining the broadcast, and Dave Pasiak shortly after, where sports meets life inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. He kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also, I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Happy to be here with you every single Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And these Cafe Kubal Studios, obviously shouting out the wonderful people at Cafe Kubal, guided by their owner and operator and founder, and that being Mr. Matt Goddard. And you can definitely make sure to head out to Cafe Kubal today on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, as well as 401 South Salina Street in Syracuse, New York, and out in Manlius on 343 Fayette Street, as well as at their drive-thru location at the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse. So make sure that you support local today. With that being said, and speaking about supporting local, it is my honor and my privilege here to continue the local voices of our community here with Michael Paulus. Michael Paulus, the Syracuse University Senior Associate Athletics Director and Executive Director of the Cuse Athletics Fund. With that being said, for the first time ever, I get to have a fellow Christian Brothers Academy graduate, as well as somebody who was there when I was there, a couple grades behind me. So with that being said, let's bring him in. Michael, how are we doing today?
Hey, Dan, I'm great. I appreciate the opportunity to join the show here and talk with you today, and a nice early plug for Christian Brothers Academy. So very well done there.
Yeah, you got it. And also, I got to congratulate you because, once a part of the family, always a part. And congratulations, because that state championship goes to everybody for 2021. So I'm sure that was something you were excited to see.
It was exciting to see that again, and for the team to go on a run, for the school to have that type of year again, and obviously we had a run. When I was in school there with my brother Greg as well, and we've had some runs where we had won it, my sophomore year, and then to see the school do it again and actually be here in Syracuse, working while they went on that run was really special. So it's good that they've continued that tradition and that they're doing well.
I want to go back a second here to your playing days, if I may, and like you said, as a sophomore, to know what it's like to hoist a state championship and whatnot. Bring me back into maybe some of those fondest memories for you and what you took away from education off the field as well as your play on the field.
Yeah. I think I was really lucky. We grew up in a family where there were so many different siblings playing different sports, and you kind of got your hone your craft first and foremost in the backyard, and I was on the younger end of the spectrum. So, I got a lot of lessons taught to me over the years on the blacktop of the basketball court and some other sports. And then just quickly transitioning into high school and college, right. And being able to compete and transition and make those adjustments. Certainly I honed in on football and basketball, and then eventually football for myself. So, I had a great experience at Christian Brothers Academy, had great coaching, locally, and had an opportunity to play with and behind, a pretty good quarterback in my brother Greg. So, to work with him and then kind of build my own career and transition to the University of North Carolina, and then eventually William & Mary, and kind of develop my own craft and career was really special. And then, certainly something off the field that's always been important to me is education, right? So making sure that you're using the sport and the sport's not just using you, right? So it's really important to leverage, athletic opportunities to make sure that you're using it for education, right? Personal development. And that's something that's always been important to me. And it's special because it's transitioned into my professional career now, right? And in athletics administration, and having the opportunity to be a former college student athlete in the ACC. Obviously now I'm in the ACC as an administrator, but to also have a few other stops along the way at some smaller schools, some mid-sized schools, and then also in the SEC. It's come full circle a little bit, even though I'm still early in my career, to kind of tie all those things together on this path that I'm on has been really special, and one that I wouldn't change.
That coming here from Michael Paulus of Syracuse University. And Michael, you said something that I thought was an incredibly profound statement, and also very simply put was to make sure that you're taking advantage of what you could do when you connect with sports, to take advantage of that opportunity and not just have the opportunity to take advantage of you. How do you continue that when you're at Syracuse University and you're doing obviously this work behind the scenes and whatnot? Do you try to make sure that when you can impart some of that knowledge on somebody that you may see in passing, that you do that? And even though you are, like you said, young in your career, do you find that mentorship connection and try to find a way to reach out to people and say, hey, listen, yeah, it's great to play the game, it's great to do what you love, but remember, you need to take advantage of the moment and get everything out of it and make sure that the moment's not taking advantage of you?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And, I think it starts even as an undergraduate, whether it is myself or speaking to an undergraduate, right, that's here at Syracuse or any of the other institutions that I've been at, of taking advantage of the resources that you have, as a student athlete at Syracuse or at North Carolina or some of these other really great institutions, and the resources that you have available to you as a student athlete. And that's regardless of the sport that you play, football, basketball, softball, volleyball. You're really afforded a terrific student athlete experience, whether it's academic support, financial literacy, all the different classes that you're able to take, and you grow as an athlete, you grow as a student, you grow as a person, and then you also can grow your network, right, of tapping into people on a current campus, right, and then the alumni of those places or former student athletes within those teams and those coaches, because when you develop those relationships as an undergrad, if you do it the right way, they'll last you a lifetime, right? And depending on the career that you want to get into, it can open a lot of doors, right? And for myself, education was a part of it and a big piece of it. And I tried to leverage those relationships and be genuine. And, I used them at different stops in my career as well to advance my education in doing master's programs or PhDs. And for me, I wouldn't have been afforded those opportunities had I not had the first one at UNC, right? And then the next one. And then at each stop, athletics has placed me in a position to take advantage of those things. And now, being at Syracuse, I think for me, to impart that wisdom or have those conversations and to be a mentor to anybody in our industry or a current student athlete, a former student athlete looking to learn more about it. I also think just really leveraging the fact that Syracuse athletics is a really important piece of this community. It's an important piece of the university in our region, to our alumni, to friends. And there's a level of responsibility and opportunity in that in itself, right? So to be back, living in Syracuse now after, being away 16 or 17 years and being in the athletics department, that opens doors to make an impact, right? And again, you can use that to benefit the community, to benefit current student athletes and students on campus. And wherever there's pockets or ways to do so, I like to try to take advantage of it.
Coming here this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Cue Ball Studios, featuring Michael Paulus, a Senior Associate Athletics Director and Executive Director of Cuse Athletics Fund. Before we jump into that side of it, you had mentioned your experience prior to Syracuse professionally, and you spent time with the U.S. Naval Academy, Ole Miss, Mount St. Mary's, and VCU. What can you say about the journey to get back home, what you took away from those four institutions that can help you today to maybe be a foundation for what you're doing at Syracuse?
Sure. Yeah. I think every place, just like in any business or field, is different, right? Any type of company or institution that you work at, they're very unique to their own geographic location, to their culture, to the institution itself and how they run and how they operate, the level in which they compete in student in college athletics and the type of student athletes that they recruit and that they have. So for me, it was very important to me early on, as a former student athlete and an aspiring administrator, was to learn how these different types of institutions operate, right? So if you're at, a small private school like Mount St. Mary's, where I was in Emmitsburg, Maryland, it operates very differently than a large public commuter school compared to Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond. Right. And neither one of those schools had football. They were both basketball schools. And then I had an opportunity to go to the SEC and work at Ole Miss for 3 years and really experience SEC college athletics, right? And being on an SEC college campus, the amount of revenue, the amount of fundraising, the amount of fan engagement, the level of expectations, and really comparing those to smaller institutions. And then I had an opportunity, as you mentioned, at the Naval Academy, which is a service academy, right? Which operates entirely different than a normal higher education institution. So for me, it was piecing together all these different unique opportunities and unique ways of operating, finding ways that could tailor what I've learned in previous institutions, implementing it or somehow enhancing where we were. And that's really no different than taking this role here at Syracuse now of coming back to work at the university and leaning on some of the things that this might have worked at a smaller school or this might have worked at Ole Miss. How can we tailor it to work at Syracuse University? How can we bring some ways to enhance what we're doing, or where are some other opportunities that we can implement new things for fan engagement, alumni engagement, revenue generating, fundraising. So it's really a culmination of taking those bits and pieces of different stops and different experiences and bringing it here where there's a lot of opportunity to grow, a lot of opportunity to make a positive impact. And to me, that was what was attractive about this opportunity of coming to a place where, the community, having grown up here and lived here, but also knowing the opportunity to take advantage of some things to really impact the experience.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, being in the SEC world, especially when you see the amount of funding and different pieces that come into that, I want to get into the Cuse Athletics Fund, as you are the executive director of that, and taking that role in July of last year, so almost a year to the date. So happy early 1-year anniversary of coming back here.
Thank you. It's flown by.
Yeah, so July of 2021. It's, obviously it states that you're responsible for the oversight of all development efforts for Syracuse athletics. And most people out there would say, what does that mean? So, the Cuse Athletics Fund and having this and being the executive director of that and having oversight of all development efforts for Syracuse athletics. Break that down for us. Give us a behind-the-scenes look at exactly what the day-to-day is and what you are currently working on in your role.
Yep, absolutely. So we've got a staff with our Cuse Athletics Fund, which is formerly known as the Orange Club. We've got a staff of about 11 people on our team. And what our group is charged with is we partner with a number of people all across Syracuse University and our campus. But our goals are to engage our alumni, friends, the community, and engagement happens in a number of different ways, right? It can happen in events. It can happen in communications and marketing. It can happen at basketball games and selling season tickets, selling football tickets, lacrosse games, other types of sporting events. And what our group is really attached to and a part of is generating really revenue, right? Every single year we've got to make goals for revenue in order to enhance our budget and be able to do the things that we need to do to support our coaches, our student athletes, and our overall operation as Syracuse Athletics as a component of the university. We're also charged with raising philanthropic dollars on top of that, right? So in simplest terms, we're a business that needs to generate revenue, generate engagement, to come back to Syracuse. If you're out of state, if you're in state, how can we get you involved with Syracuse Athletics, and to support us with your time, with your participation, with your money, and help us achieve some of the goals that we want to achieve. And then we also have, different types of projects going on. That way, when we want to enhance a facility, if we want to enhance, a football center or a basketball center, you look back at when the Carmelo Anthony Center was built, that was money raised through philanthropic donations from friends, alumni, and supporters of Syracuse University. So our team is tasked with raising different funds for capital projects. Right now we've launched a capital campaign. We shared that in the fall that we're aspiring to raise $150 million in a multi-phase project to renovate the existing Manley Fieldhouse into what will now be called the John A. Lally Athletics Complex. And the goal is to refresh and enhance and renovate that existing facility to update it. And when we're going to do it in different phases in order to benefit our sports programs and support our student athletes. But that will be our long-term goal, and that's a phased approach, contingent upon our team, raising that money. But, it's definitely a multifaceted organization and team that we have. We've got a good group of folks that have different responsibilities. And, at the end of the day, we're tasked, with making a significant impact on Syracuse athletics. And it's really through different ways of relationship building and raising philanthropic resources.
And when we look at this, like you said, and obviously that $150 million project that you had mentioned here, that's the big one that people are taking a focus on here to, take what Manley Fieldhouse is and turn it into the John A. Lally Athletics Complex. How is that going? And what can you tell us about where we are now from the fall and this announcement and this desire to do different pieces of this? And I know some money has already come in. Where are things now, and what becomes phase one, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some really great momentum, with fundraising for the project. And if you've driven by Manley Fieldhouse, eventually, we're going to be transitioning, calling that the Lally Athletics Complex here very soon. You'll see that construction has started. So we've started construction on a new front entryway right now, and that commenced in April. So when you drive by, you'll see that progress has started. So we fundraised enough to begin that. That is a great portion of phase 1A, and then we're continuing to fundraise for the next phase. So we're making good progress there. We've got great momentum, and we'll continue to do that. And again, going back to my earlier comments of a lot of these things are done through philanthropy, right? So when our friends and our alumni and people that care about Syracuse University and the athletics department step up to philanthropically support and donate to these projects, it's helping us move forward with it. So our team, again, we're continuing to fundraise for it. We've started it. We've got some work to do as far as continuing to finish out the funding for the next phase. And then as soon as we get that and we get approval, then we'll begin the next phase.
And, obviously this was when we talk about John A. Lally, why that name is there. John is the one who with his wife gave $25 million to get this project off the ground. And you're looking to obviously get these funds all privately and whatnot through donations. How do you tackle that in the world that we live in today through 2 years of a pandemic and everything that's gone on, rising gas prices and all these other pieces? How do you continue to reach out and demonstrate why this needs to happen, why Syracuse University wants to do that? What is the message in today's world of creating a complex of this sort and calling out to people and asking them to not only be involved with the university, but to consider donating? How do you and your team spread that message at a time where people may feel spread thin?
Yeah, and I think it starts with a vision, Dan. So I think we've got to continue to share that story and the vision of what this complex is, what it will do, and why it's needed, right? So, it's really helpful for us to be able to show and tell that story of what some of these spaces will look like, who it's going to impact, which is all of our student athletes. I think the more you can share that, hey, this isn't just going to impact 12 or 15 student athletes in one sport. This is going to impact all 650 of our student athletes and their experience and their development at Syracuse University. So sharing really broadly how many people this is going to impact, for how long it's going to impact. This isn't just a couple-year project. This is going to impact generations down the line of future student athletes. Continuing to educate on more about the spaces of how it's going to impact the student-athlete experience, improvements to existing facilities, creating new areas that we've never had before for our student-athletes. Again, going back to personal development, academic development, professional development. I also think we've got to do a little bit of benchmarking too, right? So we've got to look at our ACC peers and share a little bit about what they're doing, right? Because in college athletics, you're always in competition, right? So when Boston College is launching a campaign, and Virginia Tech and Miami and Georgia Tech and some of our peers are consistently in campaigns or they're in facility renovations to update their training spaces or their sports medicine or their performance center for all of their Olympic sports teams, we need to compete as well. So for us, sharing that vision of why it's needed, why do we need it at Syracuse, what's it going to do to help our student athletes and our programs, sharing what's going on across our conference. Certainly you can look across the industry of college athletics and the 64 other Power 5 institutions and the 4 other conferences. But if you look at the ACC and so you see some of these campaigns of the facilities that they're building, a lot of it is for recruiting, a lot of it is for development. And now when you look at the transfer portal, it's about retaining your student athletes. So facilities are a really important piece of recruiting, families and prospects, developing them once they get here holistically. And then it's also a part of retaining them, right? And making sure that they're developing and continuing to stay and contribute to Syracuse. So it's a tall task in the current environment when you talk about, the gas prices, you look at the market and things like that. But there's also a long-term strategy and a long-term vision to this as far as Syracuse University athletics and what this project will do, not just this year, not just coming out of the pandemic, but 20, 30, 40 years down the road.
That coming here inside of the Cafe Kubal studios on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora as we feature Michael Paulus of Syracuse University, Senior Associate Athletics Director and Executive Director of Cuse Athletics Fund. Going off of what you just said, Michael, this complex enhancement, this upgrading of facilities and whatnot, in today's collegiate athletic world, is that a necessity? Being inside of the ACC, being inside of the autonomy group, living in the world that we live in today when it comes to college sports, has it become a necessity to do something like this and have this complex where it's not just an idea, it's not just a, hey, we'd love to do this or we think we have the donors to do it, but rather a need-based thing that you have to keep up with what's going on in the current world of college sports. Do you feel that necessity at Syracuse University, being inside of the conference you are and obviously inside of the autonomy group?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Dan. And I think anytime when you're an athletics department or you're a development team and you're launching a project to fundraise for and enhance some of these things, the biggest question that you often ask is this a necessity? Who's it going to impact? And does it fit who we are, right? So do we need to build a locker room with TVs in every single locker, right? You're starting to look around the industry and you're seeing some of these projects or these locker rooms or these football facilities that might cost $80 to $100 million, right? So is it a necessity to spend that type of money on a football facility, or is it a necessity to spend, tens of $1 million on one locker room, right? So for us, and it's to the leadership of John Wildhack and our chancellor and so many of our great leaders on campus is really, defining and aligning this athletics campaign with the university and really what it's going to be and how it's going to reflect our university. I mean, these enhancements that we're looking at doing and fundraising for are absolutely necessary in order to recruit and retain and develop our student athletes. It is important to have a really great academic student center for your student athletes to go and learn and work with our academic counselors, right? And it's important to have a nice Olympic sports weight room, and it's important to have a nice football facility in order to develop and recruit and get people to come to Syracuse and put them in a position to grow and be the best they can be and to put our teams in a position to compete, right? So, the great thing about this project, and our athletics director, John Wildhack, has spoken very well on it all, is that it really aligns with the university. So it is a necessity for us to improve our facilities in order to do those things I just mentioned. Even more important, and I think the best thing about it, is that it aligns with who we are, Syracuse University, that it is not an outrageous, upgrade to facilities or anything like that. It's exactly what we need to improve and enhance the functionality and the student athlete experience here.
And and I appreciate that, obviously everything that you just said there, to really put a concise piece to this, that it is a necessity, in your opinion, to improve the facilities and defining and aligning this athletics campaign with the university itself and with who you are, and not just doing it to do it, but making sure that as you make these choices and do these things to Syracuse University overall, that it makes sense with the mission and the vision, and it's not just to try and keep up with somebody else, but essentially to make sure that you're still who you are. When you look at, you mentioned John Wildhack, the athletics director at Syracuse, you serve on his cabinet. What does that role give you, and what opportunities does that create, and what does it mean to you to be a part of that cabinet, which is obviously a sounding board for John Wildhack in the grand scheme of things?
Sure. And John is a tremendous leader. I've gotten to know him over the last few years, just across our industry. And then obviously having worked with him here the last year, really just respect John. And he was a major critical piece to me wanting to come back to Syracuse and be in this role. And he's a tremendous leader. He bleeds Syracuse, obviously, given his background here. He's got a long-standing tradition of his family coming to Syracuse. So it's extremely meaningful to John. Right. And when you work with someone like that and work for someone like that, it's really a great experience. So I have a ton of respect for John. I enjoy working with him, as being a member of his cabinet. There's about 7 or 8 folks where you're meeting weekly and you're reviewing some of the questions you even just asked, right, about the current issues and the current landscape of college athletics. You're looking at things going on in Syracuse athletics on campus. You're partnering with campus and making sure that we have our student athlete and our fan experience, at the forefront of our conversations and our decision making. From an external and a fundraising standpoint, we work really closely, with so many people across campus, right? You can't make your decisions in a vacuum because they impact so many people, across campus and in our community. So when we get together with with that cabinet of leaders in the different areas, right, of sport administration and finance and academics and legal and compliance, you're really making sure that you're coordinating your approaches, right, and you're reviewing all your different options for making decisions and how you're going to move forward with different things. And it's an elite leadership group that really has Syracuse University in athletics, making the best decision for them at the forefront of their minds.
And there's so much that is happening within everything that we're talking about. There's also the JMA wireless dome now, not the Carrier Dome anymore, and upgrades being made there to the seating, to hopefully the connectivity and the digital side of it to make it easier for everybody, and to have a complex that's outside to enhance the engagement and the excitement of the fan base before the game and around the game. So with all these things going on simultaneously at Syracuse University, how would you describe the time that we're living in right now when it comes to the athletic upgrades and remodeling of what we know Syracuse University to be?
Yeah, I think it's exciting and it's impactful, to have all these great things going on and these opportunities, really from a daily standpoint, right? So every day we're coming to work and we're having these conversations on the new Lally Athletics Complex, right? And making sure that we're building that and that we're fundraising for that the right way, because that's going to impact our student athlete experience and then their development as students and as athletes. And then we're also simultaneously talking through all these things with the dome and the fan experience. And that's internally with the seats, that's externally with the other different options that we put forward and have showed as far as the fan experience on game day. It's really just an exciting time. And then from our end as administrators, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity these next several years to really make a positive, lasting impact on Syracuse University and Syracuse athletics. All these decisions and all these things that we're working on a daily basis, a lot of people are going to be impacted, right? And they're going to hopefully, see this as an enhancement to their fan experience, right? We're going to have a nicer seat for you to sit in as opposed to the benches. And I know over the last several years, we've made other upgrades to the fan experience as well. And that's what this is all about. So for us, it's really exciting to do these things, to be a part of it, to be at Syracuse during this time. I don't think from a Cuse Athletics Fund and alumni engagement standpoint, I don't know if there's been a more exciting time as far as some of these additional renovations that we're making at the Dome, and then also the ones that we're making over at the complex.
And final points here, Michael, and going to these upgrades and different changes that are being made and whatnot. I know that these questions have come up with more than a few that have reached out. What are we doing for people, special needs, handicapped people that need a better access? I know there's some people that have come to the Dome in wheelchairs and whatnot and can only sit with one of their family members, but not two. And if they have two kids, one of their kids has to sit elsewhere. So what are we doing for that side of it? And are there implementations or a plan to implement a better way for people that are in wheelchairs or have some type of special need to enjoy the game with their entire family, as well as their accessibility to be a little bit easier?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dan. And I mentioned earlier about how these projects impact so many people across campus, and you're constantly partnering with so many different areas to make sure that we're making the right decisions, right? And for us, it's working extremely closely with a lot of leaders on campus. None more important than Pete Sala, right? Pete Sala being the chief facilities officer here and working with him, tremendous leader, tremendous partner with us in the athletics department of going through these processes and making these decisions, everything from the length of the aisles, ADA seating, the building up to code. All of these things are constantly reviewed by Pete and his team. We partner together on it, reviewing the types of seats, how that impacts it, the different sections, what we can do to continue to increase and enhance ADA seating. So all of those conversations are had and continue to be had. It's a very, very complex project when you look at the scope of it and reseating and putting these new chair backs into the Dome. But those are all conversations that we have and that you have to take into consideration, because they're all components that will make up this new facility. So we absolutely are having those conversations. We will have everything ironed out, but this is a really, really great fan experience for all of our fans to come to the games.
And a last piece here with Michael Paulus, and I appreciate your time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. You had mentioned this, but enhancing the engagement with alumni as well as what makes Syracuse at Central New York special, putting those two together. I mean, this is home for you. This is home for your family. This is where your family has built so many ties. And so for you, what makes Syracuse and Central New York, in your opinion, special? And then to connect that to engaging with alumni and reminding them of this community and the importance of staying together.
Yeah, I think the first word that comes to my mind when you think about Central New York and Syracuse is the community of just being here, the community of people, the camaraderie, the quality of life here. You know, after moving around and working at different institutions, several different athletics departments, all great experience. I've learned so much from a professional standpoint. You develop personal relationships. You get ingrained in the community to really enjoy it. But I think what makes Central New York and Syracuse really special is its people, the community, again, the quality of life of living in upstate New York. I think when you look at Syracuse athletics and Syracuse University, the impact that it has on our community, you know, the impact that it can have on the energy and the vibrancy and the economic impact. You can just look back a couple of years ago when football had a great year and beat Clemson, you know, go to the Orange Bowl. You see how that can impact a community, right? And we've seen it with basketball with different Final Four runs and a national championship. So for me, I think you put all those things together with the camaraderie, the community, the quality of life, the fact that we're at a place that can really make a positive impact on our community. It's really special. And for me, it was just really a no-brainer to be a part of this opportunity to work with John and take on some of these projects. And again, it goes back to, we've got meaningful challenges ahead with the Dome and the Lally Complex, and sharing this story with our alumni and our friends and the community, you know, and parents of current student athletes and former student athletes, you know, to have 30,000 people in for a basketball game, you know, when we're rolling and we can get in the 40s for football. It's exciting. It's really exciting. It's rewarding. It's impactful. It's meaningful. And we need to do a great job of continuing to tell that story of the impact that Syracuse athletics makes as a component of our university.
Michael Paulus, Syracuse University Senior Associate Athletics Director and Executive Director of the Cuse Athletics Fund, giving us a behind-the-scenes look at Syracuse University and all of the things to come in our upcoming future here as we look to build upon what is already there and rich in history. Michael, I appreciate the time, and I look forward to having you back soon. And thank you so much for giving the fans and people all around the world that bleed orange the opportunity to really get to know what is going on and all of these different projects and pieces behind the scenes. I know means a lot to people, so thank you for your time today. I really do appreciate that.
Absolutely, Dan. Honored to be on the show here today and to speak, and hopefully there'll be an opportunity to do so again.
Yeah, absolutely. Be happy to have you back.
All right, thank you.
All right, take care. That coming from Michael Paulus, once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, giving us a lot of information there, a lot to take in. Syracuse fans, you learned something today. Senior Associate Athletics Director at Syracuse University and the Executive Director of the Cuse Athletics Fund, Michael Paulus, here with us, and I appreciate very much so the opportunity to connect with him. So with that being said, we're going to take a step aside from inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. When we spin back around, we will get into our final piece of today's broadcast, which is to speak on those NBA Finals and what is going on in this 2-1 series that now Boston is in the driver's seat of, with a game in Boston for Game 4 to continue things on here. We'll talk about that with Dave Pasiak right after this fast break where sports meets life.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Proud to be here with you, hanging out where sports meets that thing called life. And, of course, Cafe Kubal available to you at all of their locations on 3501 James Street as well as 324 West Water Street and 401 South Salina Street in Syracuse. And, of course, out in Manlius on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, as well as at their drive-through location on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners. And make sure you go over there to North Syracuse to enjoy their indoor and outdoor dining, and, of course, their drive-through at the Sweetheart Corner location in North Syracuse, right by the airport. So, with that being said, we're going to round out today's broadcast with the opportunity to speak on the current NBA Finals series. And Finals talk, you know, happens with DP and DT right here. Very happy to have Dave Pasiak and myself, Dan Tortora, here with you as we carry you throughout the playoffs, as Dave and I have done the last couple seasons here. And very excited to have the longtime basketball coach and analyst rejoin us here on the heels of the Celtics heading to Boston for the first time in the series and taking a 2-1 lead after winning Game 1, losing Game 2 by 19, almost 20 points, winning Game 1 by 12, and then coming back here in Game 3 in their first home game at TD Garden of this NBA Finals against the Golden State Warriors and getting that victory by 16 points, 116 to 100, and heading into Game 4, which is coming up Friday. So very quick turnaround for the NBA Finals. Mr. Pasiak, how are we doing today?
Doing good, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing well. And Dave, you know, first and foremost, I mean, what are your thoughts at this point, taking a look at Game 3? What did you see in Game 3 that stood out to you? And I know, I mean, obviously having three different players do what they needed to do offensively and then also go out there and help in rebounding and assists and making sure that those, you know, points weren't just scored, but scored by moving the ball and moving it well. There was a strong third quarter, again, from the Golden State Warriors, and Boston had enough of an answer. They had an 18-point lead that they saw diminish to nothing and were able to win by 16, so find a way to come back. What can you say about how Boston started the game and how they were able to finish the game after they lost that 18-point lead?
Well, I thought it's the first time in the series, going in, we talked about how Boston had a significant advantage in terms of size and length, athleticism, and that kind of thing. And I thought last night was, it really came to the forefront. I thought Boston was more physical than they had been in the first couple of games. And really, their size and their physicality disrupted Golden State, and it really bothered the Warriors. I thought Robert Williams was a big factor on the defensive end. And, I thought the other thing that happened last night, Curry got in a little bit of foul trouble, and once he did, they really, really attacked him. Tatum and Marcus Smart, they really attacked Curry, relentlessly throughout the game. And the game was weird in the sense that it felt like Boston was in complete control, but the Warriors were kind of hanging in that 10 to 12 point range a lot of the game. Then they went on a kind of typical third quarter Warrior run. Actually took the lead, and it felt like, well, maybe Golden State was going to steal this game. And I was really impressed with how Boston responded to that. They kind of got their bearings, regained control of the game pretty quickly, and in the end, won convincingly going away.
Yeah, and like you said, taking control. Why do you feel that, we've talked about the length and the physicality. Is that really what you saw in the third? This third quarter, it was the Golden State MO to make that run, to make that push, and to find a way to flip the script. Why do you think Boston was able to flip it back in this game specifically? And going off of what let me not load the question. I do want to ask you a few things about Steph Curry, but on this game specifically, what was it about Boston that they were able to respond after being in game two and looking totally clueless in the second half?
Well, part of that is playing at home. And, we talked after the last game about how the role players on both teams were really going to be a key to the outcome. You had Marcus Smart last game, was pretty much a non-factor, and he had a huge game last night. And same can probably be said for Horford. And I thought it was, and Williams really was more of a factor last night than he had been in either of the first two games. So, I think it was a matter playing at home, role players a little bit more comfortable, and just Boston kind of imposing their will on Golden State.
And Dave, you always talk about, role players playing better at home. And, comfortability is obviously there. But when we look at this, if this goes 7, how does Boston – do you think Boston is in control? Are they in the driver's seat, or is it too soon to say that in a 2-1 series? And kind of going off of that, if role players play better at home, if this goes 7, we're going to have an extra game in Golden State. So how do you feel about how the role players have done so far? And do you think that Boston has control, or do they need to get this next one in order to establish that control? Is it too early to say they're in control?
Well, I think they're in control right now because they snatched home court after they stole game 1. But that can change quickly if the Warriors even the series on Friday night. Then the pendulum shifts back to Golden State a little bit. I do think that if Boston is able to win Friday and go up 3-1, I think they have a stranglehold on the series. I think it's going to be very, very tough for Golden State to come back from 3-1 down. Boston has, throughout the playoffs, they went into Milwaukee and won. They won game 1 in Golden State, so they've kind of shown the ability from time to time to take their game on the road, and some of their role guys have stepped up, whether it's Horford or Marcus Smart, White, Williams. Those guys have had the occasional big game on the road that's swung the balance. So, I think if it does go 7, you have to like Golden State at home with their edge and experience and whatnot. But I don't think it's a given by any stretch. And like I said, if the Celtics are able to go up 3-1 after Friday night, then I think they are really, really in the driver's seat at that point.
That coming here from longtime basketball coach and analyst Dave Pasiak here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. And the current coach of many seasons here with the NVU Linden Hornets Division III team in Vermont. Dave, Steph Curry, are you surprised that, I mean, we know how well he can shoot. We know that he needs little to no time, little to no spacing to get that shot off, and he'll shoot from anywhere. Are you surprised that teams have not tried to attack him more when he's on defense to get him into foul trouble? Because a player that is almost impossible to guard, you would imagine if you force him to foul you and you go at him and at him and at him, that's the way to beat him, is to get him into foul trouble. They did that yesterday. So are you surprised that maybe Boston hasn't done it more, or other teams haven't done it more, that with the focus on Steph Curry's offense, that people haven't gone after Steph Curry defensively more often? Or do you think they have and then have just been unsuccessful?
Well, I think historically people have attacked Curry defensively. It's been part of the reason why, like, NBA Finals Curry hasn't quite been the same player consistently that that Curry has been in other settings. So, I think teams do try to do that, to an extent. And once he picked up the early foul trouble, he got really soft. It was very intentional on Adam. The flip side of that is, Golden State is aware of that, and they try to cover. That's where Draymond Green is a big piece of that team. Wiggins and whatnot cover up for Curry a little bit. So, I think it's a great game plan to go at him and try to get him in foul trouble and out of the game. And when he gets in foul trouble, he becomes really, really soft defensively because he wants to stay in the game. But sometimes it's easier said than done because the Warriors are scheming defensively to hide him and protect him.
Yeah, and it just, obviously it was something that had worked last night. Another thing that was working was, we made mention of the fact that in Game 2, people want to focus on Jason Tatum and the minus 36 that he had and all of that. And obviously that's important, but you look at the fact that the team around him was not what they were in Game 1. Al Horford had 2 points, Marcus Smart had 2 points, and Jaylen Brown ended the game with having 17 in that matchup. This time around, we see Al Horford in Game 3 with 11, we see Smart with 24, and we see Jaylen Brown with 27. The unified effort of these players and what they've been able to do in 3 out of the 5 starting 5 to be able to get into the 20s, including Jason Tatum, just the importance of all of that. We saw that Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum are on a short list of history in the fact that each of them had at least 5 assists in the Game 3 win. Each of them had at least 6 rebounds in the game, and each of them got into the 20s as far as scoring goes. We saw that balanced attack that we saw in Game 1 that we did not see in Game 2. Your thoughts on how Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Jason Tatum looked in Game 3 as a trio?
Well, I thought, Tatum, you're going to get a pretty good night's effort and a pretty good game out of him, even like in Game 1 where he really kind of did a great job of facilitating and getting other guys involved. And I think Brown is having a great series. I thought Brown was really terrific on both sides of the ball last night. Smart, I think, is kind of more the up and down guy. They really got next to nothing out of him. And last night, I thought he was really aggressive, but aggressive in a smart way. No pun intended, but look for his without it detracting from the rest of the team. And I thought he was really, as much as, if you want to point to one individual player, I thought last night he probably tipped the scales as much as anybody.
Yeah, and in seeing this, Steph Curry that we've been talking about here with Dave Pasiak on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Dave, an avid lover of the NBA, knowledgeable of this sport of basketball at every level, and continuing his prowess as a basketball head coach and as an analyst. Dave, Steph obviously went down late in the game with a foot injury and was not looking like he was feeling right at all. He got back up. We're seeing Steph just kind of, and this wasn't the only game where we saw something, right? And he feels it, and he keeps moving, and he keeps moving, and he keeps trying. He's gone through injuries before. he's obviously playing through something. We saw him go down yesterday going after the ball. What are your thoughts on him? As obviously Steve Kerr and the team have to monitor him for Game 4. There's a quick turnaround. And does this bode well for Boston that the turnaround is so fast, knowing that Steph has been through injuries before, and obviously things take time, but an injury late in Steph Curry affected this team so bad that they didn't make the playoffs in recent history. What are your thoughts about the current state of Curry, and knowing that obviously he went down with a foot injury last night?
Yeah, that's definitely something to keep an eye on heading into Game 4, what his physical state is going to be. But and you're exactly right, the quicker turnaround, only 1 day in between games as opposed to 2 for the first couple games, happens to favor Boston right now because they appear to be the healthier and the fresher team. Although they're dealing with some stuff too, like Williams. He's been dealing with an injury for a while, and he's kind of giving it the best go he can. But he's been a little bit game to game for the Celtics. So, I think if Curry is not close to 100%, it's hard to see Golden State winning. They lean on him so much, both directly in terms of scoring, and the other thing that he does is he draws so much attention that it creates opportunities for Thompson, Poole, Wiggins, some of their other guys. So it makes the game a little bit easier for those guys. So, if he can't go or if he's significantly less than 100%, it's hard to see Golden State winning under that scenario.
Yeah, and looking at the bounce back effect of the Boston Celtics, they're 7-0 after the winning Game 3 in the NBA Finals here this week against the Golden State Warriors. They are now 7-0 in this 2022 postseason following a loss. Your thought on that? And obviously as a coach, not letting a loss beat you twice, they don't. 7-0 in the postseason following a loss. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's a little bit of reflection on, it's obviously credit to the players, but also like Udoka and his kind of demeanor and his preparation and whatnot. You remember they went down 3-2 to the Bucks, and his response was, that's going to make winning Game 7 even that's that much sweeter. And I think he's a guy that, obviously they're well prepared and well schemed, especially defensively. And I think he's a guy that's got kind of a low key confidence about him that the team, he doesn't seem to get rattled, and I think the team kind of reflects that. I think they've got kind of a perseverance and a confidence in every situation where, they don't press the panic button necessarily.
Yeah, and this team having that poison, like you said, going to a rookie head coach too, and we've seen rookie head coaches have success, and obviously my Raptors, Nick Nurse, 2019, coming from the G League, wins a championship in his first season as a coach, and here we are with, Ime, with the opportunity for him as a rookie head coach with the Boston Celtics to do the same thing that Nick Nurse did and win a championship in his first season as a head coach. What are your thoughts on that? We saw the Phil Jacksons of the world, and we saw the Greg Popoviches and whatnot. These certain coaches that in Sloan and in Utah, everything that we saw historically in the NBA were these perennial coaches that had coached forever. Now we're seeing these first-time head coaches in the NBA take the cake, and we have an opportunity to see it again with the Boston Celtics potentially here. Not to get ahead of myself, but that is a storyline that is existing right now. Why are first-time coaches, in your opinion, getting through to these superstars and putting themselves in a prime position to do what typically we were used to seeing coaches do that have been coaching for a long time?
Yeah, the first-time head coaches, but these guys are from the NBA circle and everything. I find it interesting with the Celtics that, and I like Brad Stevens and everything, but they hired Brad Stevens, and because he had a name coming out of college, people were ready to anoint him as the best coach in the NBA when he had never done anything. Versus like Udoka, he's a guy who's been in the NBA as an assistant. Nick Nurse was the same way. You go back to when Steve Kerr took over the Warriors. Sometimes that guy that's the NBA lifer and just understands how to kind of get the players to coalesce around the team and preparation. I think the one thing in the NBA people don't give a lot of enough credit to is like the game-to-game preparation and coach, adjustments and tweaks and whatnot. I think that happens in the regular season to a degree in the NBA, but it's certainly ramped up in the playoffs where you're playing the same team several games in a row, and I think the game-to-game adjustments and everything. And, Udoka being in the NBA circle has, he's got familiarity with that. He's obviously doing a great job, in the leadership role as a head coach.
That coming here from Dave Pasiak this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. I call it DT and DP as I'm here with Dave Pasiak talking about the NBA. And Dave, one of the things that I had made mention of that I wanted to get back into today to give the only other time that the last time that it happened, a 25-5 performance from three players on the same team. And it's funny how history has the Celtics and the Lakers with a rivalry, because the last time it happened was with the Lakers trio, and it happened in Game 3 of this 2022 NBA Finals. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart with at least 20 points, 5 assists, and 5 rebounds apiece for all three of them. The last time it happened, Los Angeles Lakers, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Michael Cooper. Your thoughts on that, and your thoughts on giving a shout-out to Michael Cooper, where so many people talk about Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Yeah, well, Cooper's a little bit like, the Marcus Smart of that team. The guy who's, was relied on to be a real good defender, played off the other guys, but, was a really talented player in a great spot. And Green is that way for Golden State a little bit, or has been historically. But, just kind of ironic that it's Lakers and Celtics and whatnot. But I think, when you look at that Lakers trio, they were each very different from Kareem to Magic to Cooper. Whereas I think when you look at Boston, one of their strengths as a team is their overall length, versatility, and to a degree interchangeability. I think Tatum, Brown, and Smart, they're a lot more interchangeable in terms of the things that they can do, a lot more versatile as players maybe than when you look at Kareem and Magic and Cooper.
Yeah, and in seeing this now, we head to, get Game 4 here back in Boston, and the opportunity for the Celtics to take a 3-1 lead or the 2-2 tie to go to Golden State. What do you think Boston has to do in this moment in Game 4? Because we've already seen this go in their favor and out of their favor and out of their favor in a big way, and I think they would have lost by 20-plus if the starters have stayed in. So what do you think is the telltale that Boston needs to pay attention to in Game 4?
Well, making shots, is always a big thing with both teams, but I think Boston needs to maintain that level of physicality that they played with last night. I think that was really disruptive to Golden State. And, Golden State is really a rhythm team. And, when Boston can really assert their will physically, I think that really gives the Warriors problems. So I think on the Celtics side, that, for sure is the key to a Game 4 and to ultimately, if they're going to win the series, I think that's something they're going to have to maintain.
Do you think that there is a better team in this right now, in your opinion? Going into the series, did you find Boston or Golden State to be a better team? And can you define that now? Or do you refrain from defining that?
I think you refrain a little bit. Like, going into the series, I thought that maybe the combination of the home court and the core guys, like Curry, Thompson, Green, haven't been at Ike Iguodala. Him being back out of the lineup certainly doesn't help the Warriors because he's a veteran stabilizer. But I thought going in, that might tip the scales a little bit to Golden State. But, I don't think, as sports fans and people that follow the game and everything, I think we sometimes overreact to an individual game. And, Game 2, the Golden State's a much better team. They're going to cruise from here. Now, last night, Boston kind of had their way. I think people tend to jump in the other direction. But, I think there's a lot of basketball to be played. And Game 4 is really pivotal. I think, like we talked about a couple minutes ago, the a Celtic win really puts them firmly in control, whereas, if Golden State goes and wins Friday night, now the narrative is completely different, and scales tip back to the Warriors.
That coming here from Dave Pasiak. Dave, a final note here on the world of Klay Thompson. And as we take a look at Klay Thompson here, as far as how he's been throughout this postseason. In the games against Denver, 19, 21, 26, 32, and 15. So 2 games that he had in that 5-game series outside of scoring 20 points. Then we saw him against Memphis, 15, 12, 21, 14, 19, and 30. So many games there under 20 points. And then we see in the Western Conference Finals against Dallas, 15, 15, 19, 12, 32. And in this series, we have seen him against Boston, 15, 11, and 25. What is the Klay Thompson conundrum, and what are your thoughts on how he's performed overall in this season of the NBA playoffs, as we have seen more teens in scoring than we've seen 20-plus?
Yeah, he's still obviously a really good player and a dangerous shooter. They kind of, Golden State left him out there at the end of the blowout in Game 2 to kind of try to get his rhythm back. And then, he was pretty effective last night for the Warriors. So, he's still a really dangerous shooter. I think he's not quite the same player coming off the injury that was before that. I know it's a combination of maybe lost just a little bounce in his step, timing and whatnot. So he's still a really high-level player, but I don't think he's quite 100% back to where he was before that injury shut him down for an extended period of time.
If Steph isn't 100% and he plays, if he doesn't play, obviously it's a different team. But if Steph plays and is not 100%, besides Klay Thompson, Otto Porter Jr., Poole, is there somebody you look at that you think, obviously nobody is Steph Curry, but if Klay Thompson has kind of been an enigma in the postseason, is there somebody else on this team that you think could catch fire from deep for the Golden State Warriors?
Well, Poole is obviously the guy that picked up the slack for them. In Game 2 and just generally in the postseason. I think he's elevated his play. So I think he's a guy that, can pick up some of that slack. And I think, even with Curry and Klay near the top of their game, I think Poole gives them that third perimeter threat that takes them to a different level.
That coming from Dave Pasiak, longtime basketball coach and analyst, and the current coach of the NVU Linden Hornets men's basketball team out in Vermont. Dave, as always, I appreciate it. I know you're traveling, so I'm happy that we got to speak with you on the road. And obviously, as always, be safe. And I hope you get to wherever you're going in a timely manner and as always safe and sound. But I thank you for everything that you have always done for the show. And I'm very grateful that even in your travels today, you spent a few minutes with us. So above everything, I hope that you are safe and sound and get to where you're going. And I thank you as always.
Well, appreciate that, Dan, and great to talk to you as always. And let's hope we have a great game 4 on Friday.
Absolutely. So I'll be watching. I know you will too, and we'll be talking about it very soon.
Okay, talk to you soon, Dan.
All right, take care. That coming from Dave Pasiak once again on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We'll take a quick step aside to wrap up today's show inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. This is Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating. Find them at 201 Old 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and all the time online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, you can order all throughout the country at maandpaspopcorn.com. And remember to get your tins, which have in-store half-price refills forever. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, available to you for fundraising and all of your events by calling 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Hope you're having yourselves a fantastic day, and hopefully we made it better with our fantastic trio of guests here inside of maandpaspopcorn.com's What's Poppin'. Our trio today, Papa Joe in his Thursday post with us, and we got to cover a lot of different things with PJ. Got to cover Major League Baseball as well as horse racing and golf. And, of course, with Michael Paulus. Very happy to have Michael on the broadcast here with us today on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life, where we had the opportunity to speak with Michael about his job as Syracuse University Senior Associate Athletics Director and Executive Director of the Cuse Athletics Fund, with a background behind-the-scenes look at Syracuse University, the goings-on, and the upgrades that are happening here. A lot of great information to the community, to Syracuse fans all over the world, and really appreciate Michael Paulus giving us so much information in that conversation. I'm going to make sure that we can send that out to you, and you'll have it available at all of our podcasting outlets. And, of course, Dave Pasiak for his expertise all the time, perennially, and every single moment we get to speak on the sport of basketball and life in general, speaking with us about the Boston Celtics and Golden State Warriors, as Boston has taken a 2-1 lead and has an opportunity at home to make it 3-1. This is all. Game 4 is always that pivotal piece, right, when we're in a 2-1 situation, because 3-1 is vastly different than 2-2. Either you even the series and start it at 0-0 again when you tie it 2-2, because essentially it's like starting it all over, right? It's 50-50, so here we are and it's anybody's series, or 3-1 where it's back against the wall and one team has 3 chances to win the series. So there's a lot about when we come to a Game 4 situation and it's 2-1 somebody, vastly different world, and I see it in everything, in any sport where it can be 2-2 or 3-1, and how different that world truly is. So thank you to Dave for talking with us about that. Thank you to you for being a part of the show. And of course, today, why did I choose to wear this Jurassic Park and Jurassic World-centric shirt with my favorite? I'm a Toronto Raptors fan, and obviously I'm a fan of Jurassic Park, and I'm a fan of the Raptors and a fan of blue. Wore this today because the 6th installment of the Jurassic Park series comes to us today, and you'll have the first opportunity worldwide to see Jurassic World Dominion tonight, and I'm actually going to be seeing it this weekend with the soon-to-be misses. So I wore this to celebrate Jurassic Park and Jurassic World, so that is why I'm wearing it today. And with that being said, tune in to Wake Up Call inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, and MixLR.com, all /WakeUpCallDT, as well as by going to WakeUpCallDT.com's homepage. And you have the opportunity to find us on Facebook.com and a secondary location on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT. So make sure you check us out there. Very much appreciate the opportunity that we have had with you through all of these outlets to connect with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So thank you for that. You can also find us in our archive after the show goes live. You can hang out with us on Stitcher, Spotify, MixLR, YouTube, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podbean, and more, including Amazon Music as well as Audible. You can ask Alexa to play the latest episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and you can also ask your Google devices to do the same thing. So catch us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life, on any one of these incredible outlets. And we thank you so much for being a part of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We also want to thank our Central and Upstate New York partners that I've had the absolute pleasure to work with: Cafe Cubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, PB&J's Lunchbox, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Avicoli's, and Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, Honda City of Liverpool, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, and Mother's Cupboard. I cannot thank you enough for being a part of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. It is a true honor and a privilege for me to be able to work with the incredible people, and our family is only getting bigger, and we'll have an announcement for that coming up here very, very soon. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins, as it is Fins Up with the Lemoyne College Dolphins, and you have the opportunity to hear from Lemoyne every single month, and you get to have them on Wednesdays here with us in Dolphin Dive, as well as AD&DT. Every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time is considered Dolphin Time, and we have the opportunity on the first and third Wednesday of each month to bring you AD&DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora, with special topics every single episode. And every second and fourth Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time each month, we bring you Dolphin Dive, where we dive into the stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. Fins Up for the Lemoyne Dolphins. Check out their content on the Lemoyne tab of WakeUpCallDT.com, and make sure to subscribe and bookmark our website, WakeUpCallDT.com, as well as subscribing to our YouTube channel for all of our Lemoyne content on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. My goal not too long ago was to have 100 subscribers. This morning, we're over 400 people. So we have 4 times what I had anticipated. What I shouldn't say anticipated. We are now 4 times what I had hoped for, and felt very thankful to have was 100 subscribers. We're now at over 400 subscribers on our YouTube channel. Continue to subscribe. It's very easy. It's one click away on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, and I thank you for everybody that has subscribed. Get more information at LemoyneDolphins.com. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Marywood University Pacers. Pacer Pride comes to you every single Friday on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, exclusively telling the stories of our Pacer student athletes, coaches, and administration. It is always Pacer Pride time on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and you can get all of our content with the Pacers by going to our Marywood tab on WakeUpCallDT.com and clicking subscribe, and also saving that. And of course, you can find your Pacers on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and as always, go to MarywoodPacers.com for more information. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats, and the Bobcat Buzz comes to you every single month here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. We just had the opportunity to feature the Bobcats with Makai Reed, who is staying in Central New York, coming from the Syracuse Academy of Science and heading off to Bryan and Stratton College to play with the men's basketball team and new head coach Clay Gagan-Sherman. You can find all of our content with the Bobcats by going to the BSC SYR tab on WakeUpCallDT.com, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. And for more information on your Bobcats, go to Syracuse.bscbobcats.com. With that being stated here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to thank you for being a part of the show today and every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I want to thank my trio of guests once again, Papa Joe, Michael Paulus, and Dave Pasiak. And I want to congratulate Michael Paulus on making his debut on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and hopeful to many, many more. And with that, I want to thank Cafe Kubal for being our proud studio partner. Cafe Kubal, our exclusive studio partner, and you can find them on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, and 401 South Salina Street, all in the great city of Syracuse, New York. And you can also find them on 343 Fayette Street in what I call the Welcome Center to Manlius. You can find them there. And they have a fantastic double-decker cafe on 343 Fayette Street there in Manlius, New York, where all the roads converge into Manlius. And you can find them on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in their North Syracuse location, which is their drive-through location for Cafe Kubal. So if you're looking to grab and go quickly through the drive-through and you want to stay in your car, head off to their North Syracuse location at the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners, right by the Rite Aid that's there. I hope you have a fantastic day. I am so grateful that our technology permitted here and that the iPhone and Apple world worked out. I'm thankful for that because we got to tell you the stories today. And we stay with you 2 hours plus as promised because we always make sure we take care of you here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Thank you for being dedicated and devout to me and the show. And thank you so much to God above everything for giving me the opportunity to do what I love and love what I do. I'll talk with you soon. Find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, the Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. Don't miss my special with Christy Salters Martin. You can find that on youtube.com/Wake Up Call DT, and I'll share it again on our social media. And of course, as always, God bless. No stress. Do your best. We'll talk soon. Be well, everybody, and stay safe.